Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls build video with me, Sherman. Today we are taking a look at Meridia's Guardian, or the Guardian of Meridia. This is a build I was kind of inspired actually for this build by Sees All Colors from the Fighters Guild, and also from Meridia when you meet her in the storyline, we'll just put it that way. It's kind of like a cross between the two. I really love Sees All Colors and the character story of them. I thought that was really good in the Fighters Guild, and I love the Meridia story in the game and how it played out and the way it worked out. So this is inspired by that, but let's go ahead and explain what the build is. So this is a a solo and small group play build. This is made for normal and vet dungeons. It does work in normal trials and vet trials, but it's a little bit harder in the vet trials to get it to work effectively unless you give up a few things and change a few things. Then you can make it more effective for trial play. I tried it in one trial and it worked really good. So I was like, okay, it'd probably work in most of the trials. A lot of people wouldn't say to use these sets either, but I'm going to tell you guys now, when you hear people say not to use certain things, it's because of the meta. They want you to play the meta, and the meta requires certain build types. I don't play the meta because the meta doesn't work for everybody, so it's good to have a variety of builds, and that's what I'm offering the community, is a variety of builds. And this is a new one, and this is a Templar tank. So it's a lot different. You know, most meta builds are the DK, so I wanted something new. I have always played a Templar tank anyways in the game, and this is my main character, and she has gone through probably 30-40 different iterations in her lifetime, and she'll probably go through more before I quit playing the game. So let's go ahead and take a look at the stats and everything. So this is a Wood Elf Templar. You can be any race you want with this build. It doesn't matter. It depends on what kind of racial benefit you're going for. So this one is, as you can see, is geared more towards stamina, but only a little bit. It does have a 15,000 magic. You do have a 28k health, 24k stamina. I would say 25 because of that 800 there, you know, but you have a 832 magic recovery, a 1,104 stamina recovery, and you do want a high stamina recovery with this build because you do focus on using a lot of stamina abilities, and because of that, you want to be able to get that stamina back as quickly as you can, and using heavy attacks will do just that. It'll help you keep that stamina in constant return. So weapon damage is 1630. This also has a lot to do with the solo play of the build. Why it's set up this way is because I do play a lot of solo play and small group stuff like public dungeons, regular dungeons, normal vet, and I don't do a lot of trial stuff, but I did take this to a trial to see how well it would work, and it works out just fine even in normal trials, but it doesn't work as effective against trial bosses or even dungeon bosses as I would like it to. But it still works fine. I mean, it's just one set that doesn't work. The rest of it works fantastic for the way it's set up. Next up, we have 23% weapon critical. Don't worry about your weapon critical because you're gonna crit regardless. You know, as a tank, you're gonna crit hit every once in a while. You're not going for 100% crit, and especially with this build doesn't work on that. So we have a 29,000 spell resistance and a 23,000 physical resistance. Now this is a front bar, and on back bar it actually goes up. And the reason why it goes up on back bar is because of the way the build works when you're on back bar. On back bar, you're gonna be right up in the boss's face, and you're not gonna have time to a lot of times to cast your buff because you're constantly moving. So you want the higher resistances without the buff from your class. So that's why I run this that way. But it's a really good build. I'll just say that. It's been really fun playing with it. The Munda Stone is the warrior. We also have repentance on both bars, and the reason we have repentance isn't for the stamina recovery, it's for the heal, the group heal. So you want that also for these as well, the repentance. We are running tri-stat food, so you could run something else. And the pots I run, just to let everyone know, I get asked this a lot, what pots do you run? I just run the basic pots. I don't run any fancy pots most of the time, because I don't have the things for the skill bar, the skill lines. I don't have that, the alchemy and stuff unlocked. So I do have one of the food things unlocked. That's why my food seems to last longer on this build. But I don't have any of that other stuff unlocked. So I would suggest getting that before you use potions from the thing. And the potion I would actually use for this build is one that increases your weapon damage and your weapon critical. I would use that on this build, but only because of the fact of what it does. But the one I'd really use if I was going to play this build properly is I would use the one that gives me the higher health, that does health recovery, or max health, or gives you max health, and then gives you health recovery. I would run that. I think that would probably be the best one for this particular type of build setup. So, going into the inventory here, I do run a 2-piece Spawn Mothers, Swarm Mothers, and the reason I run the Swarm Mothers is for the stamina recovery, but also when you block an attack from an enemy that is further than 5 meters away, you spin a strand of spider silk and pull them to you, and this effect can happen every 2 seconds. So this is a way to keep the trash that's at ranged right at your fingertips. You can just pull them right to you, and it works on multiple enemies. It doesn't just work on one. It works on multiple enemies. So if you get hit by a bunch of enemies, it calculates the pull based on the enemy itself. So if one enemy hits you, it gives that enemy a 2-second cooldown, and it gives another enemy a 2-second cooldown, and so on and so forth. So that's how the Swarm Mothers works, and it's a really powerful set for a tank because it's a pull, and Templars don't have a pull, so this works really good for them. Next up, we are running Torag's Pact. I never even thought about using this set until I saw what it did, and it says increases the potency of your weapon's enchantment by 30% and decreases the cooldown of the enchantment's proc by 1 second. Now, you have 2 ways of going with this build. You can go for a Magicka build, or you can go with the Stamina build, and in either way it works really well. So you do want to run 5 pieces of heavy, 1 light, 1 medium. The way mine's set up is I have, this is all, as you can see, heavy. I don't have this in the right, all reinforced like I wanted. And I am running full reinforced, just so you know, because of the way my character's set up in champion points. I don't need the extra block reduction, because I only block what I need to. So, just letting you guys know. I block to pull enemies because of this, and I block enemies for the next gear set. So this set is part of it. This is mainly for damage purposes, and also for Magicka return. So, next up we have, and again, this is my 1 light, this is my 1 medium, the rest is all heavy. And my next set is Meridia's Blessing. I went with Meridia's Blessing because it's a really, really, really good set. Regardless of what many people say, it is a really good set if you know how to use it effectively. When you block an attack, you have a 33% chance to blind the attacker, causing them to miss all attacks for 5 seconds. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. It shares the same cooldown style as Swarm Mothers, so it's per enemy. It's not, oh, well, I cast it and I have to wait 10 seconds. It will apply it to multiple enemies, blind them, and then it gets a 10-second cooldown on them. So it's on the individual enemy. I tested this multiple times last night just to make sure that's how it worked. So next up we have a infused sword. Also, Torag's Pact, it's infused. We have the Absorb Magicka on it, and as you can see, it does 3200 magic damage and restores 500 Magicka. This is your way of restoring your Magicka, is this ability right here. Besides that recovery, you want to have it as high as you can get, and I would suggest anyone playing this build to use a gold enchantment. Don't use purple enchantments on this. Use gold enchantments, and try to get the sword in gold as well. Try to get your sword, at least your weapon, in gold, because it's easier to get the weapon in gold than it is anything else. I am running a Shield of the Torix Pact. I don't have these in purple yet because I ran out of resources because I've been crafting so many sets lately for other builds that I ran out. And as you can see, Torix Pact also gives you spell resistance, and the Meridia's Blessing gives you both physical and spell resistance. So that's why you have such a high spell resistance with this build. And you really don't need the buff if you don't want it. That gives you physical and spell resistance. You just need one that gives you physical resistance, and there isn't one in the game that just gives you physical. So you're kind of stuck overshooting this every time, the spell resistance, and that's fine, because this build works really good in any place where there's a lot of magicka cast. This is a great build for that. So next up, I run a Defending Sword of Torix Pack on the back bar, also with Life Drain enchantment. This does the magicka damage and it gives you health back. The reason I didn't go with the magicka one here is because you're not using as many abilities for that purpose on the back bar, and I'll get to that in a second. Here, again, Torix Pack, reinforced. Both shields must be reinforced for this build to work properly. Now, you could drop the reinforcement on this one and go infused if you wanted to, and make sure both your shields have magic in them. And I'm sorry for all the coughing, guys. Allergies, for some reason, for me, I've been extended, and it's really driving me nuts. But yeah, go for like reinforced here and infused here, or go with something else here. You could even go sturdy here if you wanted to. It's up to you. On to the skills now. The skills are kind of in a weird place. I know a lot of people are going to be like, why? But there's a reason why I run this build the way I do. So first off, make sure you have all your class passives unlocked. Every single one of them, because you are going to use a few abilities off of every area to keep certain things active as much as possible. This is your main skill. Blazing Shield is your main skill with this build. It does a damage shield on you for 33% of your max health. That 33%, by the way, is actually given to me because of Bastion. If I take Bastion away, the percentage bonus I get from Bastion, I will only have a 30%. So this build actually works a lot better when you can dump a lot more points in the Bastion, but I didn't have it, so I kind of just said, you know what, I'm good. I'll just leave it as it is. And it does still work really well. 33% of my max health, by the way, just so you guys can see, is still a lot of 28%. That's you know, over 25% of my max health. It's still really good, and you're going to keep this up a lot. The reason why is because for all the damage that it absorbs, it does that back to the enemy as well. It does a decent amount of it back to the enemy. It does 50% of the damage back to the enemy. So, but let's start with the first skill. We have Pierce Armor. Now, I'm not using it. I am using it for the Major Fracture, Major Breach, but not for my group purposes. I mainly use it for the taunt and the damage that it does with the taunt. The piercing armor thing is nice, don't get me wrong. The Major Fracture, Major Breach is really nice, but I mainly use it for the taunt and the damage that it does. I'm not going to lie. Next up, I have Heroic Slash. I've been trying Heroic Slash out, and to be honest, it's good, but it's not that good. I would much rather go with Deep Slash still over this any day. I don't know what it is with this ability. It just does not work for me. I don't like individual targeting when you're tanking. I like hitting multiple targets. With that minor maim and the movement speed thing. I like it hitting at multiple targets, so it just doesn't work for me. And I understand why a lot of people use this to build your heroism up. Give you minor heroism. It's really nice to build that ultimate quicker. Next up, we have Absorb Magic. This is kind of a flex spot. I'm not going to lie, guys. This is a flex spot. You don't have to put Absorb Magic here because you only have it on one bar. And I put it on this bar because of the reduced block costs. And that thing that gives you the damage shield that heals you for max health. Because I do fight a lot of magic-based enemies. This is a nice way of doing that. And I can still use my block to pull them in and everything else. So it's really cool. This isn't an actual damage shield, by the way. This is actually a thing that just applies to your character. And as you can see, it's a thing that surrounds your character with the shield. You can see it kind of glowing on my character there. It surrounds their skin with the shield. It's not an actual bubble. It is not like this, where it's an actual damage shield. This is like a damage skin kind of thing that it puts on you. It's kind of a wonky one too, but it's a really nice one to have, and it works really well, especially in most dungeon environments. Next up, we have Blazing Shield. Like I said, this is our main skill. You're going to keep this up as much as you can. And with the high magic recovery and the fact that every time you do a heavy attack, you get 500 magicka back, it works out really well. Next up, we have Repentance. You can go with the other one. You don't have to go with this one that does the heal if you don't want to. You can go with the other one that does the... it applies minor magicka steal to all enemies within so many meters. You can go with that one. The problem with that is that thing is an aggro magnet, like big time. If you want to keep aggro, that's a way to do it. It's a really powerful skill too, because it still gives you the minor fortitude, minor endurance, minor intellect, and it's, like I said, it's really good. But it applies that minor magicka steal to all enemies around you, so it's a really kind of a good one. Next up is my ultimate. I run Shield Discipline, and a lot of people don't run this. Reinforce your shield, allowing you to automatically block all attacks at no cost for 7 seconds. Your one-handed sword and shield abilities costs are reduced by 100% while active. This is a great one to use. It's really cheap on the ultimate cost, and it does work really, really well, especially in dungeons. Now, I'm not going to say it works well in Trials, but it works great in dungeons. In Trials, I have used it before against, like, the thing in Hellraw Citadel that rapid hits you. This is a great ability for that, to mitigate all that damage. Just boom. And it auto-blocks everything. And then all you have to do is be healed through it. So it's a really nice thing. And it doesn't last a long time, but it lasts long enough to get by those things. Next up on the back bar, we do have Shielded Assault. Now, again, not a lot of people run this in PvE, so this is kind of a flex spot. You can go with something else like Spear Shards if you want to, or Blazing Spear here. Excuse me. You could go with Blazing Spear here to help out with resource return to players and stuff like that if you want to. I just like using Shielded Assault because of the damage shield that you get. That's honestly it, because I like to charge the boss right away and hit him, and I get that small damage shield, so I can cast all my buffs and then cast my taunt and keep them on me. Next up, Reverberating Bash. I will not stop using this ability ever. I didn't realize like how effective it really was until I started using it. It has the longest effect of Major Defile out of all the stuff, all the skills in the game. So it's the most effective way to keep Major Defile on your enemies, especially when they have a lot of healing that they take. This is a really good way to slow that healing down. Another thing I want to point out before I get too far past this skill is because a lot of people don't know this. The ability, or the champion point that gives you the increased gives you greater effect on this, does it in a weird way. It gives you a percentage of a percentage. So mine set it to 10%. So that's why it says I only have 33% effectiveness, is because it only gives me 10%. If I had 20% in there, I'd get more. If I had 30% into it, I'd get more. But that's here and there. And I'll get to that passive when we get to it. Why I have points, explaining why I have points into it. But that's the reason why it's for this ability. So these two abilities, are floaters if you want them to be, but I would really suggest not making them floaters. Next up, we do have Ritual of Retribution. Doesn't heal for a lot, doesn't do a lot of magic damage, but it's a nice thing for the what it does. It's your purge. It's a cheaper cost purge ability, or cast purge ability, and it works really good for you. Now, if you don't want to use this, I would suggest getting the Alliance War Purge skill, but as you can see, it takes a lot more magicka, so you have to make more of a magicka build with this in order to make it a super effective thing. And I just don't do a lot of PvP, so I don't have Purge, but I would suggest getting Purge for this. Next up, again, or not again, but next up we have Restoring Focus. This is like the buff you want to keep up as much as you can, especially against certain bosses. It does give you Major Ward and Major Resolve, but it also gives you minor vitality and minor protection, increasing both your healing received and the damage, reducing the damage you take by 8%. This is something that's going to be important. Now, the suggested race I would actually use for this build, just so you guys know, would be the Nord, because of the extra damage reduction and the extra health recovery on them is really nice. So, and the fact that they get 9% max health, 6% stamina, works really good. Would work really good with this type of a setup. Next up, Repentance again, and like I said, this is mainly for the group heal. It's really powerful group heal. So, and then solar disturbance. This is the probably hands down the best ability you can have for mitigating damage to your group. This I save for boss encounters, especially if I know, like, I keep this up, keep this saved for those oh crap moments, because you call down a fragment of the sun to the target, dealing so much magic damage, and then it applies major maim to affect foes, reducing their damage done by 30%. That includes physical, magic, it doesn't matter. It's all damage by 30%. It's really powerful. And then the fact that it also reduces our movement speed by so much. And then you can activate a synergy on this that does magic damage to all enemies within a certain range, stunning them and also stunning them. So it's a really nice synergy. It's got a good damage reduction thing, everything. So people keep asking me to go over my Undaunted or all my passives. I have all the Sword and Shield passives unlocked. I have all my armor passives for light armor that I can use unlocked. I have all the ones for medium armor that I can use unlocked. And the same thing goes with heavy armor. I have every single one of those unlocked. For the world skills, I have these two passives unlocked because I do like having the being able to res without the cost of a soul gem every 1 hour. It's nice. It's just like a free res. So it's nice to have that. And I also have this unlocked because I like to get soul gems back. And being a Templar, you have a passive that allows you to fill soul gems as well in the Restoring Light under Master Ritualist. It gives you a 50% chance to fill a empty soul gem after each successful resurrection, and then this gives me a way of getting it whenever I kill an enemy, the world skill. In here, I have the Fighters Guild. I do keep these all unlocked, but this is the main one that I use, Banish the Wicked. Really great ability. You generate 9 ultimate, and in dungeons, you fight a lot of Daedra and Undead. Not so much werewolves, but Daedra and Undead, definitely. So this gives you that way to keep your ultimate generation coming in really fast. Mages Guild, only the Persuasive Will, because I don't use a lot of magic abilities on this. Thieves Guild, of course, not really, that's just for solo play. Over here, I do have Inner Beast unlocked, and I have both these Undaunted passives unlocked. And of course, all my racial passives are unlocked. So, and I did this because it works. It just works a lot easier just to unlock everything instead of going, oh well, I'm going to unlock this, and this. I just unlock it all. So let's go ahead and jump into champion points and take a look at them. So starting here at the Steed, you're going to notice, guys, a routine with me. I just pretty much set my points up the same all the time. 23 in Ironclad, 10% damage reduction from direct damage. 20 points in here, giving me 1900 extra spell resistance. I'm thinking about actually taking out of here and putting into my physical resistance because I really don't need that 1900. Over here I have Hardy and Elemental Defender, both with 10% because I put 43 points in both of them. I have 6 points into Thick Skin. I wish I would have done, I wish I had more to put in here to give me a greater effect. Moving on over here, I have 23 in the Bastion. As you can see, this gives me 10% bonus to any damage shields. That includes any percentage damage shields. It gives you 10% of the percentage. So if you have 30%, it's only going to give you 3%. Just to let you know. 19 in a quick recovery, increasing my healing received by 5%. I am wearing heavy armor, so I get extra healing received from it, and I get extra healing received here, and then my buff gives me extra healing received. It's a nice way to just get that higher healing received so heals work more effectively on you. Next up, heavy armor focus, 1900 points. Like I said, I should take out of here the 20 points and honestly just dump them all into here. For the damage reduction, just let you guys know, the reason why I do the damage reduction the way I do is because when you play a tank, it's more about trying to mitigate as much damage as possible. When you're playing DPS, it's not so much about mitigating so much damage, it's about just reducing the damage that you take. So it's nicer to go with damage reduction on DPS than going into the armor focus, even though most of mine do go into armor focus, just to let you know. Moving on to the green tree, I have 18 into Warlord. I will put this up to 23, giving me 10% break free cost. But I have 16 into Bashing Focus. This gives me 10% reduced cost in Bashing. I do need to go over the enchantments on my rings, though, so I'll get to that in a second. So Bashing Focus, Mooncalf, Arcanus, and Synactus, all have 43 points, of course, to give me that 10% exactly. Over here I have 10 into Befoul, and this is where I get my extra 10% effectiveness, or increases the effectiveness of your healing reduction abilities. This is where that Major Defile gets that 3% from. Regularly 30%, it actually adds another 3% because of this. So you do want to try and put more points into this than 10 points if you can, but you would be giving up this instead, and you don't want to give up this. So that's 10% reduced block costs. And that's why I can block and get away with without having sturdy gear, is I can do this. And I don't block a lot because I use the ultimate to reduce the cost of blocking. So I don't need this as much. So, and then on to this tree. I do have one in a blessed. I'm going to be putting more. I'm actually going to... I need to readjust my champion points here. I'm not going to lie, but I'm going to be putting more into blessed. I do have 35 in here. I have 56 in a weapon. This to give me 20 and 20. That's 40% damage increase on my heavy attacks. But it also unlocks Retaliation, Reposit, and Butcher. These are all three things that all tanks should have unlocked. No offense, but they should. Over here, I have 43 here. I have 23 here. 23 here. And as you can see, I don't need the damage over time, so I'm actually going to take out of here. I am going to leave this as it is, but I'm going to take those 23 points and I'm going to dump them all into here. I'm going to have about a 6 or 7% healing done, so it's going to be kind of nice for me to have that with Ritual Retribution. It's just going to increase that heal just a little bit more, and my healing received will be increased because of it. So nice stuff here. But that's pretty much it for the champion points. Let me show you guys, though, I didn't do this, the glyphs that I have on my weapons. Or on my jewelry. I run a weapon damage one, I run a bashing damage one, because I do a lot of bashing with this build, and it's just habit of mine that I do a lot of bashing, so I put this here to give me that extra weapon damage, because it does add to the weapon damage you already have. That 1630 gets increased by 277, which makes your bashes hit a lot harder. And then I have a magic recovery. Like I said, you don't really need this magic recovery if you don't want to. You could go with something else. And I would really suggest, if you're going to do this, you're going to drop this, go with either another bashing one, like this one, or go with a block and bashing reduced cost if you want to. But I would prefer this or this, one of these two on here. It would be just a lot better. So let's go ahead and take a look at this build in action. You guys notice I have a really fast sprint speed. That's because of the passive from the medium armor increases your sprint speed by, increases your sprint, yeah, and reduces the cost by so much. So I'm just going to ride around over here real quick and grab a enemy to fight just to show you guys the build in action. I would take that on, honestly. I probably could take that on. But I don't have Deep Slash, so it would be a little bit harder for me to hit multiple enemies. This wouldn't be such a bad idea, but that troll, yeah, you know what, forget it. We're going to go take on the troll. Go ahead and pop all of our buffs. Let's get those enemies over here. And like I said, it's all about keeping that damage shield up. And this does pull. So as you can see, it does work on the pull as well. So it does work out pretty well. These are all elite mobs, by the way. So, and I don't really have the setup I'd like to have for this right now. Like I said, Deep Slash would work so much better with it, but it does work out really well. It's mainly about keeping your buffs up. Just keeping there's 3 buffs you need to keep up most of the time. And I'll show you what those are here in a second. This is more of a group encounter anyways. So but still, it wasn't too bad to try and take on by myself. Go over here, and let me go ahead and pull open my skills again. So just so you guys know, it's about keeping this up as much as you can, and then keeping these two abilities cast. These are your two main abilities you want to keep casted all the time. This one for the damage reduction stuff, this one for the dot heals, and then to cleanse any conditions and stuff. You could switch the bars around. You could put these two on the back bar and put these on the front bar if you wanted to, so you can stay more focused here. But since you need to cast this a lot more, it's just a lot easier to keep this is why I keep it set the way I do. You have the choice of setting this bar up how you want, and you have the option of setting the skills how you want. But this is a really fun build when it works to the advantages of its design, which is basically blinding the enemy to reduce the damage that they do. It does work against elite mobs, it just doesn't work against named elite mobs. So if you can see, eventually these guys are going to start hitting me and they're going to start getting blind. And anytime you can get this up, use this to get for your stamina return also. I'm just going to go ahead and recast those, get this back up. And as you can see, it is a really simplified tank build though. And I mean, look at this bash. It's really just, you know, it's not about the damage though, except for when you're solo playing. And like right now I'm solo playing, so it's all about how you can manage your resources and everything, and I'm just playing with what I have available to me in the game. And that's the thing about builds. It's all a matter of what you want your character to have set up for. I like this setup. I think it works great. You know, irregardless of what many people say, the blessing, Meridia's blessing, does work on every mob in the game. So Meridia's blessing does work on every mob in the game, except for named elites and bosses. It works on all elite mobs, because they don't have the ability they don't have the same stuff that the same immunities bosses do. Bosses are immune to everything, so this would not affect a boss, but it does affect trash mobs, named mobs, things like that, or some named mobs, like named quest bosses and stuff. It will affect, but it it won't affect like world bosses. It won't affect dungeon and trial bosses. Torag Pack is just awesome for this right here, that magic return, because when you do the magic damage you get so much back in return. And if I didn't have this equipped, like I'll go over here and just show you guys. I don't know if I locked this or not. So this one does, as you can see, it does a lot less, and it gives me a lot less magic return. But when I have it equipped, because of Torag's Pack, I get that greater return. So it's a lot nicer to get that greater magic return, and that's why I said to go with a gold one, a gold enchantment, so you get more damage, not just the damage from, but it's for that magic return, and it allows you to keep that magic return constantly in there, coming back. So every time you do a light attack, you do a heavy attack, you have a chance of getting that to proc. And with wearing Torag's Pack and using an infused weapon, it happens more often than it doesn't. So just to show you guys this again, anytime I cast, like you see a double proc, I'm getting that magicka back. So and this is just a way to keep that magicka coming in. And they are blind, by the way. And I love the ranged pull from Swarm Mothers too. It's really great, especially in dungeons, because you get hit by a lot of ranged attacks, and you just pull them all to you, allows your DPS just to melt stuff. And that is pretty much it for the Meridia's Guardian, or Guardian of Meridia build. So, yeah, that's it. So I want to thank you all for joining me. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. We greatly appreciate it. If you want to see more videos by me, you can hit the subscribe button. Again, I do want to apologize for my allergies, but it does happen. I do try to post videos on a weekly basis. Right now I'm releasing a lot more, and I do have a lot more to come. So, thanks for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and I will see you all later. Bye.